What if you're not made of flesh and bone at all? What if, at the deepest level, you are nothing more than a pattern in an equation? Because everywhere we look, the universe seems obsessed with mathematics. Galaxies spin in perfect spirals, planets trace out ellipses, light bends with the precision Einstein wrote down on paper long before we ever measured it. It's as if reality itself is reading from a script of numbers. And here's the unsettling thought. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe you don't live in the universe. Maybe you live inside an equation. Galileo once said, "The book of nature is written in the language of mathematics." He wasn't exaggerating. Think about it. The numbers don't just describe what we see, they predict it. Einstein's equations predicted black holes decades before we ever found one. Dirac scribbled down a formula and discovered antimatter, a whole new side of reality, pulled straight out of maths before anyone had ever seen it. Even the strange spirals of seashells and galaxies trace out the Fibonacci sequence, nature dancing to the rhythm of numbers. And then there's the Mandelbrot set, a single formula that blooms into infinite fractal detail, worlds within worlds forever. Just numbers, yet somehow beauty and complexity beyond imagination. So here's the question. Why does math work so perfectly? Why should symbols on a chalkboard tell us how the universe behaves? Physicist Eugene Wigner called it the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. But what if it's only unreasonable because we've been thinking about it backwards? What if the reason math describes the universe so well is because the universe is math? Physicist Max Tegmark takes the unsettling whispers of mathematics and shouts them into the cosmos. He claims the universe doesn't just run on math, like an engine runs on fuel, it is math. At first that sounds absurd, but let's break it down. The more we dig into nature, the less stuff we find. Atoms aren't solid marbles, they're mostly empty space, with electrons that dissolve into probability clouds. Quarks are nothing more than excitations in invisible fields. And those fields, stripped to the bone, they're just equations, rules, relationships. So what looks like matter is really structure. And structure is exactly what mathematics is. The study of patterns and relations that exist whether or not anyone is there to write them down. Tegmark pushes this further with a bold conjecture. If a mathematical structure is self-consistent, then it exists, not on paper, not in theory, but physically real. We happen to live inside one such structure, a universe that happens to allow stars, atoms, and conscious beings. Which leads to his mathematical universe hypothesis. You don't merely use equations to describe your world, you are an equation, a self-aware fragment of mathematics experiencing itself from the inside. Think of a video game. To the player, the world feels real, solid landscapes, characters, physics, but underneath, it's just code. Tegmark's claim is that our reality is no different. The only difference? The code here isn't binary ones and zeros, it's pure mathematics. It's a radical idea, but if he's right, then every number, every equation you've ever seen in a textbook isn't describing reality, it is reality. If Tegmark is right, then our universe is just one equation among infinitely many. And to explain that, he lays out a ladder of multiverses, each step more radical than the last. Level 1. Imagine looking so far into space that light hasn't had time to reach us yet. Out there, past the cosmic horizon, lie regions of space with the same laws of physics, the same constants, just arranged differently. It's still our universe, just endlessly bigger. Level 2. Now crank it up. What if other bubble universes exist, born from cosmic inflation, each with different physical constants? In one, gravity is stronger. In another, chemistry never happens. Most are dead on arrival, but some could harbour alien forms of life beyond imagination. Level 3. This one comes straight out of quantum physics. The many worlds interpretation says every time a quantum choice is made, reality branches. Every coin flip, every photon, every life or death moment spawns parallel worlds, each just as real as this one. And then comes level 4, Tegmark's ultimate leap. Here, it's not just different constants, not just different quantum branches, it's every possible mathematical structure existing as its own universe. Think about that. A cosmos where space has 4 dimensions instead of 3. A world where time loops back on itself in endless circles. Realities made of pure geometry, where beings are polygons floating in abstract space. Or universes so alien that even our language fails, because they're built on mathematics we haven't even discovered yet. In this view, every mathematical possibility exists, which means, in some deep and cosmic sense, everything exists. If the universe really is mathematics, then the consequences are staggering. First, you are literally math. Your body isn't stuff in the usual sense. It's a structure of atoms, which are structures of quarks, which are excitations of fields, which are relations inside an equation. Strip it down far enough, and you're not a thing, you're a pattern, a self-referential set of numbers that just so happens to feel like you. That means consciousness itself is mathematics. Your thoughts, your dreams, your memories of childhood, all of it is the unfolding of a particular mathematical pattern. Not matter that somehow produces math, but math that manifests as matter and mind. In Tegmark's words, we are self-aware substructures inside a giant mathematical object. Second, truth becomes physical. Take something simple like 2 + 2 = 4. In the mathematical universe hypothesis, that isn't just a logical truth. It's as real as the sun rising in the morning. Equations don't just sit in textbooks, they exist in the same way galaxies do. Third, the laws of physics aren't imposed, they are discovered. Why does gravity follow the inverse square law? Why does light move at a fixed speed? Under MUH, it's not because some cosmic lawmaker declared it. It's because those rules are the properties of the mathematical structure we live inside. Like a triangle always having 180 degrees, our universe's rules are baked into its geometry. And then comes the wildest implication. If every consistent mathematical structure exists, then all of them are just as real as ours. Somewhere out there is a universe where time has no direction, past and future are the same. Another where particles can only exist in groups of 5. Another where beings live in infinite fractals, endlessly zooming deeper into themselves. And universes so alien that even saying space and time doesn't apply, because they're built on forms of math our species hasn't even conceived yet. It makes our cosmos feel small, not insignificant, but one equation scribbled in an infinite notebook of possible realities. And you, sitting here, are a line in that equation, a pattern inside the math, asking the oldest question of all, why this one? If all this is starting to sound like simulation theory, you're not wrong. The two ideas often get tangled together, but they're not quite the same thing. Simulation theory, made famous by philosopher Nick Bostrom, says our reality might be running on a computer built by some higher civilization. From the inside, everything feels solid and real, but underneath, it's just code. Tegmark's idea is even stranger. He argues there is no computer, no outside reality where aliens are hitting the power switch. The mathematics doesn't need a machine to run on. The equations themselves are the reality. In a way, simulation theory is a subset of the mathematical universe, the simulation is just one kind of mathematical structure. But under Tegmark's hypothesis, every consistent structure exists, whether or not anyone is there to simulate it. So maybe we are in a simulation, or maybe that's too small. Maybe we're something stranger. Patterns in eternal mathematics, equations dreaming themselves alive. Not everyone buys Tegmark's vision. In fact, many physicists and philosophers think he's crossed a line from science into metaphysics. The first objection: it's unfalsifiable. Science demands testable predictions. But if every possible mathematical structure exists, how do we prove or disprove that? No experiment can ever tell us whether level 4 universes are real. That makes some argue this isn't physics at all. It's philosophy wearing physics' clothes. Second, math might just be a language. We humans are pattern-spotting machines. We invented mathematics as a way to describe those patterns. So of course the world looks mathematical. It's the lens we built to see it. Yes, maybe an alien intelligence would use something completely different and still understand the universe just as well. In that view, math isn't reality, it's our map of reality. Third, the why this one problem. Even if we accept that all math structures exist, why are we in this one? Why a universe with atoms, stars and brains, instead of a sterile void or a bizarre geometry with no consciousness at all? Tegmark answers by appealing to the anthropic principle. Only universes with self-aware substructures ever get noticed, but critics argue this feels like hand-waving. And finally, too much baggage. If every possible mathematical universe exists, that's not elegance, that's maximal mess. Isn't science supposed to simplify, not multiply worlds without necessity? So while Tegmark's hypothesis is bold, many in the scientific community keep it at arm's length. They admire the ambition, but they're not convinced it's more than a beautiful story. So, what if it's true? What if you're not made of atoms or energy or even space and time, but of mathematics itself? Maybe every heartbeat, every thought, every love you've ever felt is just a pattern unfolding inside an eternal equation. Maybe the laws of physics aren't commands from the cosmos, but the geometry of the structure we inhabit. It's a strange comfort, in a way, because equations don't decay, patterns don't fade. They exist outside of time. And if you are at your core mathematics, then some part of you might be timeless too. Of course, maybe Tegmark is wrong. Maybe math is just our language for reality, not reality itself. But either way, the question lingers. Are we discovering the universe? Or is the universe discovering itself through us? Because perhaps the final secret is this. The universe isn't written in the language of mathematics. The universe is the language of mathematics. And right now, you are one of its sentences. Subscribe to Stellar Stories for more journeys into the deepest questions of existence.